Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, Guro Conrad here, and right now we're going to look at one of the basic strikes, the witik or the pitik. An anglicized version of it could be a bounce, a snap, a whip, a flick. Any of those have worked, and a couple of other systems have also termed it such to have an English equivalent for it. But the one from Tagalog that we use is pitik, with P-I-T-I-K. So, this strike is just like as if I'm dribbling a basketball, or I take a tennis ball and throw it against the wall. It's going to hit the target and come back to me. So, same thing with this. I'm going to swing out, strike our target, and come back. I'm not punching for right now. What I'm actually doing is really like I am throwing a ball and imagining a ball at the end of the stick. So I'm throwing that out. It's going to hit its target and come right back. Throwing out and come back. So another thing that you might see if you've got some training already, using what do we do with this other hand? Right now what it can do, because if I swing really hard or this is a heavy weapon, it might be a little difficult to kind of hit the brakes as this is in flight. So what this allows me to do is give it a barrier that kind of helps stop it for me. And it can also help by a light push and returning it to my chamber position. All right, so how we're going to train this is we're going to imagine a big analog clock in front of us. You know, the ones that have the numbers all the way around. I know digital has been such a thing. But we can start at 12 o'clock, right? Right down at the 12 o'clock line and just bounce off our target and come back. Bounce off our target and come back. If I turn sideways, bouncing off the target and coming back. Now we move to 1 o'clock. Now there's not going to be too much of a difference between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, so we'll just use 1 o'clock as a reference for now. So we'll just bounce it 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good. So since 2 and 1 are similar, we're going to move to 3 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, barely again a difference between 4 and 5. So when I do 4 and 5, I'm going to turn my body to assist this. I can do this way, but then there's no body mechanics assisting with delivering any power. So I'm actually going to turn my body slightly and use that to flick upwards. This strike can be to the knee, it can be to the hip, it can be to the elbow, it can even be up to the face. So anything along those lines can be this 4 or 5 o'clock line. Now when I get to 6 o'clock, if I'm standing with both feet parallel this way, this is really awkward. And we're not doing like children bowling kind of thing. So what I do to hit that 6 o'clock line is I turn my body, it can be anywhere, as long as the right side is forward a little more, so now I have room to fire this strike up at 6 o'clock. I can even be completely sideways and flick this way. So from the side, it looks like this. So I'm hitting that 6 o'clock line, hitting that 6 o'clock line. All right? As we move to 7, not too much difference between 7 and 8, so we'll just use one of them. But we can hit at 7 o'clock. We can hit at 9 o'clock. Not much difference between 10 and 11, so we'll hit on that line. And then now when we get to 12, I can do a 12 either from what's known as my forehand side or the weapon side, or on my cross side. So we'll call this a backhand overhead. Here's a forehand overhead because it's on the same side as the weapon arm, or it might be crossed, and I might fire this overhead from here. All right, so hopefully you don't have questions. Let's do it once in the left hand, and now just work the opposite way around the clock, going counterclockwise. So we can start at 12. We'll just do 3 reps of each. Go to 11 and 10 and combine those together. 2 and 3, we can go to 9 o'clock. 2, 3, we go to 8 o'clock. Oh, starting to get a little awkward if I have my left foot forwards, so I can move my body and step back. So I'm in right lead right now. 6 becomes super awkward if I stay here, so I'm going to turn my body sideways, and 1, 2, 3, here's it from the side. I should probably face the other direction so you can see better. 1, 2, and 3. We go combine 7 and 8, or sorry, 4 and 5. Can't read a clock. Right? Go to 3 o'clock. and 1 o'clock, and 2 are going to be combined. And now because we're on our left side, we started on our cross shoulder, and we can still do the overhead from here. All right, so your training will be to go around the clock and use your bounce strike or your flick strike, and you can do anywhere between 1 and 100 reps, as many as you want to do to get that muscle memory in, and then switch it on your left. One other training tip, if you have some training, is whatever is your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so my non-dominant will be my left. Try to do double the amount of reps on your non-dominant hand than your dominant hand, because your dominant hand is going to pick it up anyway, and we want to build some sort of even build. It's never going to be completely even because I'm right-handed, but we don't want the left hand to be so far back that it's not functioning. So, and then around the clock with the left. Right? So, really quickly, if you have double weapon, right, we're holding in our open position. This is our open position, right, like an open door. I can strike parallel lines, or mirrored lines on either side. So I could bounce on that 12 o'clock line. Right hand moves to 1 o'clock, left hand moves to 11 o'clock, and they can go here. I can move them to 3 and 9. I can move these. Now when I do these lines, the 4 and 8 lines, you're going to see that this feels awkward if I'm staying there. So I'm going to really rotate my body so that I can effectively hit that. When we do 6, there's not really going to be a good one, because this looks stupid, and this, only one of them feels really good, the second one feels really awkward. So we can skip the underhanded line if we are doing the mirrored version. All right, so we can also mirror them in our crossed stance. So I can bounce it this way, I can bounce the strikes this way, I can bounce the strikes this way. So any of those lines, and I can even bounce the overhead lines. Right, so that's a mirrored version of striking around the clock. Last one we can do is you mix them up. So maybe my right hand really wants to strike at 1 o'clock, and my left hand really wants to strike at 9 o'clock. Maybe right hand changes its mind and it wants to go to 5 o'clock, and now this one wants to go to 11. So I can mix these up as needed, and I can strike any target I want. And at any time I can switch this over and fire from cross. I can even fire one or both weapons on the same side, and I can just bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce all the way around the clock. All right, so that's a quick intro to the witik or the pitik, which is a flick or a bounce strike. Thanks so much. See you next time.